Credo, what up? It's Cooter. Listen, I need a favor. Come pick me up at the Pauling Tap House. Seriously. I had about, 7 or 8 captains too many. Why do you hate the Japanese anyway? Come pick me up, asshole.
It's time for another wrestling podcast.
All right. Welcome to another wrestling podcast. This is episode 176. I'm Credo.
And I'm that guy that everybody just keeps blocking on Twitter. My name is Minority Mike.
And joining us, drunk from a bar, is Angry Cooter.
And he is angry, ladies and gentlemen.
www.don'ttugyourpeckers.com.
Where are you right now, Cooter? Because you obviously couldn't make it tonight, but you're drinking somewhere.
No, I could make it just fine. Somebody decided to change the time, and I decided that what, I'm not gonna leave early. I'm trying to get a little fucked up.
Well, there you go. That's the bus going right over.
Order a 007 and drink it for me.
Let me ask you a question. Why do you hate the Japanese so much?
Who is that directed to, Cooter? Because I love the Japanese.
Listen. You hate Kairi Sane. You hate Asuka. You're on the fence about how Nakamura is booked. You think he shouldn't be called the artist. I just don't understand such things.
I don't know. What are you drinking, Cooter? Where are you? Give the plug where you're drinking at.
Listen, I'm actually, right now, I'm at the tap house, the new tap house, the Pauling Tavern tap house. Just chilling, trying to make it happen, drinking a Captain, getting my drink on.
Well, Cooter, I hope that you're going to be using an Uber later.
Yeah, my car's already warming up because I thought I was on my way back. Well, thank God that I drive 5-speed and chirping second in an all-wheel drive vehicle will be much easier drunk than sober. I'm kidding. Don't even put that in. I'll fuck you up.
We're live, Cooter. This is happening right now. This is it.
We're live,
you just gave me a real live Sid Vicious fucking... Oh, it's terrible. Oh. We're live, pal. We're live.
We're live, pal.
Angry Cooter, who are you drinking with? Who's
that
there?
Is Minority Mike. I didn't hear you there. Shit. You sound like a dog whistle. I didn't hear you in the fucking phone.
I've been talking to you the entire time.
Listen, it's a little loud in here. I've been tugging my pecker. Leave me alone.
You're tugging your pecker at the bar. What are you, Pee Wee Herman?
It's appalling. You're allowed to do that.
Oh, sorry.
Well, shout out to Paul.
I'm kidding. Ben's gonna kill me because he's.
What kind of bar is that where you could tug your pecker?
Sir, please keep your eyes on my eyes.
Well, Cooter, it sounds like you're drinking a lot. Yeah. What are you up to right now?
Well, literally, I was about to be on my way out, and you guys decided to change the time. Listen, before you guys get started, let me just throw this out there real quick. I want to say, Raw this week, fantastic. For some strange reason, I could not get into SmackDown. I really wish that I'd really rather just sit on the toilet all night and play like Words with Friends on my phone. I couldn't get into it. That shit was terrible. And if Bobby Roode is not given a heel turn soon, I know, Mike, you're going to agree with this one. I just can't do it no more.
I agree. I'm sure we'll get into it a little later, but I definitely agree. Raw was good. SmackDown, it was just tough for me to get into tonight, or the night it played. Yeah.
And quite frankly, 205 Live, couldn't watch it. I wanted to watch the mixed tag thing, couldn't get into it. I don't know why. I was excited for it, and I'm just like, I think maybe the fact that I got to watch it on SmackDown and I can't watch it on my TV unless you got the smart TV with the app. Just too much technology now to watch fucking wrestling. Hey, a little too much for me, boys.
All right, Angry Cooter. Well, you have fun at the bar. Maybe we'll check in with you a little bit later.
Olivia, say hi. I'm kidding. I don't even know who that bitch is.
All right, AK. We'll talk to you in a little bit, man.
All right, boys. Say hi to your sisters for me, and I'm going to drink my captain. Good night, boys.
Good night.
Nope.
Well, Cooter hanging out at the bar, but tonight Everybody stay tuned. We're going to have Danny Mac on. He's the writer and producer for The Heel Kick. If you go to heelkickmovie.com, you can see all about it. It's coming out this weekend on iTunes and all that fun stuff. And we're also going to be talking about Raw 25 happening next week. We're going to talk about some of the top 25 things that ever happened on Raw. But once again, guys, if you didn't listen last week, we had some news to break. Lanny Poffo is coming to Northeast Wrestling. He's going to be at WrestleFest on March 2nd in Waterbury, Connecticut. We're going to bring him over there for their biggest show of the year, so make sure if you're out in Connecticut that weekend, that Friday night, don't miss it. Lanny's going to be out there. He's got the Macho Man's Hall of Fame ring. You'll be able to wear it, take pictures. And if you can't make it to Waterbury, the very next day on March 3rd, Poughkeepsie, New York, Darkside Records, we're going to have a little event with Lanny Poffo up there, a little autograph signing, and a special Q&A event where you can ask the genius anything you want to know. So make sure you stay tuned to that. Head on over to anotherwrestlingpodcast.com. You can find out more information about those events.
Lanny Poffo's the man. I just want to say, everybody that's listening, he will let you put on that ring. When you put that ring on, it's like you have a glow. Like you have the power to do it. It's amazing. The guy's a cool guy. Really is. So definitely go out of your way to see this guy.
Definitely, guys. Mike, we were actually there's an award show happening. It's the Wrestling Radio Awards, and the past 2 years we've won a few awards from this, and now we're actually nominated. We're in a few categories out there. So if you guys head on over to Wrestling Radio Awards, you can vote for us once a day. WrestlingRadioAwards.com, guys. If you head on over there, we are nominated for Show of the Year, Male Interview of the Year with Jerry Lynn on AWP, Female Interview of the Year with Kelly Klein, and also Media Interview with me, my interview with Charlotte on Fox News. So head on over to WrestlingRadioAwards.com. Vote for us once a day. Tell us that you voted. Hey, we could win something this year thanks to you guys. So, Mike, we're up for some awards. Isn't that exciting?
That's great. I mean, people better vote for us. You listen to us all the time. They better go out there and vote. And if they don't vote, I'm going to send the angry mom after you. And it's not going to be fun. So, and I'm going to send the angry one himself, the drunk one, tonight. He's just going to go out there and just curse you out just because he wants to curse somebody out. So definitely go out there and vote. I'm telling you right now, do it.
WrestlingRadioAwards.com, guys. Vote once a day. Mike, there's a lot of stuff happening in the world of wrestling. Let's get right into the week that was, shall we? All right, breaking this week, new Performance Center names. We got Candice LeRae has signed with the WWE. Team Warbeard signed with WWE, and Ricochet has signed. And I think there's a few other signings, too, from overseas. I don't have those names with me, but a few names, a few fresh faces headed on over to the Performance Center. Mike, are you excited for any one of these names that are going to be appearing now?
I'm very excited for the signings. Like, I think it's great. I think War Machine is going to be a great asset to the tag team division, whether they go straight to the main roster or
said
they
Warbeard.
just spend some.
War Machine.
You
That's
did
right.
say Warbeard. It's all right. All right. Well, we got Warbeard Hansen, or War Hansen, or Beard Hansen, one of the two. I can never get it right. But whether they're going to be spending some time on NXT or they're going to go straight to the tag division on the main roster, those guys are just amazing. Ricochet is probably like one of the best signings they've done in a while. I'm just really nervous at how they're going to book him. If he goes to 205 Live, I'll
Oh my God.
just throw my iPad against the wall, and I don't want to do that because I spent a lot of money on it. And then Candice LeRae is just a great asset to the women's division. The girl can go in the ring. Her husband, Johnny Gargano, must be very excited. These three signings, well, technically four, I think they definitely made a good signing there for their future. I think it's going to be great.
Definitely. It's interesting. It's usually to see who will come into the new year, who's going to get signed, who's going to go where. And like you said, Mike, 205 Live, please, for the love of God, don't waste Ricochet in 205 Live. I understand where you had to bring Enzo in and you had to bring Neville in, and now you had to bring Hideo Itami in. But come on, no. This guy is so talented, so beyond more. I don't know how to put it. More athletic than probably the whole roster. I would love to see Ricochet versus Finn Balor in a matchup, just to see what happens, stuff like that. But please, for the love of God, I understand that you need to do something with 205 Live, but do not do that to 205 Live.
And I read on Twitter, somebody wrote on Twitter that the WWE will probably change Ricochet's name to Rick O'Shea.
Ricochet.
Shares my bad joke of the night, ladies and gentlemen.
Now I mentioned too. There's 2 other signings, and trust me, I'm having a hard time with these names. Shadia Basiso, Nassar Alur. Jesus, I don't know. They're from the.
They're just people who signed.
It's the first female Arab and the first Kuwaiti man to sign WWE developmental contracts. And please, I'm going to get this now that I'm a racist or something with Arabs and Kuwaitis, and Cooter's going to get on me because with the Japanese, I'm going to have every minority or something. Jeez. Anyway, you know their names. I'm butchering their names, but yeah, these are 2 other people that had signed with the WWE this week too. I don't know too much about them, so I really can't say too much about it. But WWE has sure become, that machine around the world to where it's nice to see that they're plucking these talents from all the countries around the world, and it's not just, from Texas, from California. It's like it's a global company now, and it's interesting to see what will happen with them how far they make it. But it's an unstoppable machine, Mike. Basically, we need more shows. Can we get any more shows in the week? Is it possible?
Oh my
with
God.
all this
they need
talent?
Another title. They need another title on NXT with the talent that they have. They need that secondary title. I've been saying it for the longest time. Hopefully it'll happen. Hopefully.
Definitely. Now, Mike, some news broke. I saw you post on our group. We have a little group. We talk to our friends locally here. It's if you head on over to facebook.com/groups/pro wrestling marks. You could find us talking in there with a lot of local friends, local marks. But, Mike, what happened earlier this week or past few days with Roman Reigns included in some steroid allegations?
This guy, man. I'll tell you something. Whether it's legit information or not, apparently Roman is linked to a steroid ring that's been going on for a couple years. A guy by the name of Richard Rodriguez, no relation to Ricardo Rodriguez. He dropped Roman's name. I don't know if he dropped it for a plea deal. He dropped his name plus several others, other celebrities, including like Mark Wahlberg and a bunch of other guys. Not sure if there's any other professional wrestlers on the list, but Roman's name was the one that stood out to us all. Now, granted, we don't know for sure if this is accurate information or not. If this is just, some guy throwing names out there, or he legit does have a connection with Roman. But this is bad, in my opinion. I think even with the pointing the finger at Roman, I personally think this is not good.
Yeah, bad PR, bad PR.
Definitely. I mean, with a company that's so obsessed with a very positive public image, and you have one of your top guys who's connected to a steroid ring, I mean, it's not good at all. It really isn't. The guy who's supposed to replace the face who runs the place is not only had a past of testing positive, but now is also linked to this. I mean, you got sponsors, you got charities, you got all this stuff. Now, granted, he's probably innocent, and he put out a statement saying that he's been tested 11 times and passed 11 times. Not for nothing, I do believe that, but for the fact that his name is connected to this, it's really not good PR at all.
And I feel like, too, like when somebody drops a name, is he even a wrestling fan? Because this is what he was quoted as saying. Richard Rodriguez told filmmaker Johnny Bravo the following, and quote, "One of them, in particular, is a very famous wrestler by the name of Roman Reigns. He was originally introduced to me by one of the informants." And then in a statement to PW Insider, Reigns said, "I have never heard of Richard Rodriguez or wellness, fitness, nutrition. I learned from my mistake I made nearly 2 years ago and paid the penalty for it. Since then, I've passed 11 tests, like you said, as part of the WWE's independent drug testing program." Now, as reported, Roman Reigns was suspended for a WWE wellness policy violation in June of 2016. The rumored cause was Adderall. But the WWE has never confirmed that publicly. So, like I was about to say, to where it doesn't sound like he's a wrestling fan. So I don't see why he would just name, one of these guys is a famous wrestler by the name of Roman Reigns. Like, if he was a wrestling fan, he would have been like, the guy who bought it was Roman Reigns. So, he said, she said, but still, man, that's bad PR.
He probably got a plea deal and just started dropping names. He knew Roman he probably wasn't a fan, but if he was, he probably knew Roman had a past and had a connection to him somehow. And said, hey, I'm going to drop this name so I can get a plea deal and let him have his life ruined for the next couple months. Because if Roman's name does get connected to this and they do start trying to do an investigation, I doubt it's going to get that far. This takes a while to go to trial. And so that for that while, like I said, fingers are going to be pointed. So Vince, if you want to, get Roman out of the spotlight and take him away from that main event area, I know a guy who can take that spot. He's over, as I want to say. He's over. He's very over. So just think about that, and we'll talk more. I'll shoot you a text or something.
Well, man, and it's not just like, oh, this is coming out in June or whatever. This is like the beginning of the year. We're into WrestleMania season, and I'm sure, WWE is definitely going to be looking into this on their own because they don't want to look like idiots to where, crap, Roman was really doing this for how long, and then all of a sudden, months later, they found it like, as soon as that news broke, you're damn straight that WWE is going to be looking into this on their own because last thing that they want is something that even more news to come out by like WrestleMania when all their media is, full-fledged around their company and the spotlight's very heavily on them. So I'm telling you, man, like I said, it could be nothing or it could be something very big. And I guess we'll just stay tuned and see what happens with that. But hey, sometimes it just isn't good publicity, but
no, not at all.
So, we talked last week about Paige and to where she could be retiring. This could be the end of her. And, everybody broke the news like Paige is going to have to retire like Edge did. Paige is going to have to, leave and yada, yada, yada. But you know what I found interesting when Raw happened? I was expecting, they're going to open up the show with Paige. She's going to retire. And the end. But it didn't happen. She came out. She was ringside. All they said is that she won't be able to compete in the Rumble. Now, Mike, I'm telling you, man, this is... I don't know what to believe because part of me as a wrestling fan, I'm always feel like I'm getting hooked, line, and sinkered with, she can't compete, blah, blah, blah. Number 30 happens and it's Paige. And everybody's going to be like, what? You said, that's just me as a wrestling fan talking because I can't believe everything I read online, especially these dirt sheets. But when you saw her not say that she was, quitting or retiring or didn't have to make a speech to where she's quote-unquote maybe injured, but she can still be ringside, does that say something to you to where they're definitely not going to retire her, but I don't know, maybe they're just waiting for more tests to be done?
This is bizarre news, man. When it broke, I was just trying to figure out, and I understood because I've heard reports and I've heard rumors that her own personal doctor recommended that she didn't compete anymore. Her own personal doctor, not a WWE doctor, her own personal doctor, but she got the green light from the WWE. And then on Monday, she comes out all smiles like a professional, like she knew something good was about to happen. I think she put out a tweet that this week, I might be wrong saying all positive things are coming. Something in the lines of that. I'll have to look that up. And because
it was her. It was a picture of her on the top of the turnbuckle, and it was something with small setbacks or something like that. But so yeah, when all the news broke, it was like, oh, she's gonna have to retire. This is similar to Edge, this and that. I'll tell you what, if it was similar to Edge, they would have retired her on the spot. And then why waste their time of her just walking out there? But still, it's interesting to me because, like, part of me is like, oh, she's going to be number 30. 'Cause that's just a wrestling fan talking. But then another part of me is like, well, it can't be that bad if they're still wanting to use her every week. And maybe it's not as bad as what they're saying. I don't know. We don't know. We don't really know because we're not there. But you know what I mean? It's a weird... It's weird because it's like all that news broke and I was just expecting a damn retirement speech. And she just comes out like, the show must go on. So... I don't know. We'll see what happens.
I think it's a rig.
Yeah.
I think we're being worked.
Now, did you happen to catch this mixed match challenge on Facebook Live at all?
I did. I had to go out of my way to figure out how to watch this thing. Thank you WWE for making me. So this is the worst thing that they do to us now. I tune in to watch SmackDown on USA, and then when SmackDown's over, I have to go to my phone to watch this mixed match challenge, and then when that's done, I have to go back to my TV to watch 205 Live. This is like they're putting me through work to watch wrestling.
Man, you gotta like
ridiculous.
We need training. We need to like sit down, tell us how to do this every day. It's definitely different. But I was surprised that the first match was like a Finn Balor versus Shinsuke kind of a match. Granted, with Natalya and Sasha Banks, but I get it. I get that they could do it on live now. But man, I'll tell you, it's this week of wrestling is just turning into overload because you got Raw 3 hours, then you got SmackDown, like you said. Now for having mixed match shows, the Facebook, then 205 Live, then oh my god, the whole week is just wrestling. And I mean, I'm sure some of you just absolutely love that, but man, it's a fucking job. It's a new damn job for us to just try to catch something in wrestling. But I guess I understand what they're doing to try to have people tune into Facebook Live and try to be the number one live show on Facebook and all that stuff. But I don't know. I mean,
what do you think of it? Did you like it, the match?
I didn't watch it live. I kind of tuned in later on. I was trying to avoid social media because that's, you just get ruined with social media. So I had to find their link without seeing any spoilers and just trying to watch it. It was all right seeing it because WWE, believe it or not, rarely does these kind of intergender matches. Well, no, okay, I'm going to correct myself. Finn Balor didn't fight Natalya. It was the girl versus girl and guy versus guy kind of thing. But they don't do these kind of matches very often. So it was definitely interesting to see how they were going to play it out. But it was all right. I mean, I wasn't really, I don't know. It was just.
Yeah, I didn't think I was going to get much interaction with Finn and Shinsuke, but they actually had a nice little chain wrestling spot, which was pretty good. It went exactly the way I thought it was going to be. Neither Shinsuke or Finn was going to take the fall. It was going to be Natty tapping out the Sasha. Exactly how it went. I truly, I tuned in because I'm a Finn Balor fan. Finn Balor's the guy who's going to take Roman Reigns' spot, just so everybody knows. But I really don't have much interest in this mixed match. I can't even say it. That's how much interest I have in it.
No,
this challenge.
Now is it being dragged out every one match every week kind of a thing?
Yeah, one match a week. This is going to go on for the next 12 weeks, Credo.
Jesus, 12 weeks.
12 weeks. I think this is going to.
It's going to pass Mania or how long?
Yeah, it's either going to be right around Mania where it ends, or it's going to pass Mania. This is what the hell are they doing? Every Tuesday night, I have to do this if I want to watch. I have to go from USA to my phone, or to my iPad to Facebook, to from there back to the WWE Network.
Oh man, we gotta get paid for this shit now.
They're getting what are they trying to do? Get those fat marks to sit in their basement to actually start doing some work?
Just
gotta get them sweating, Rito.
Oh man. Well, speaking of SmackDown too, Bobby Roode is your new U.S. champion. Holy shit! I didn't even think this was happening. It was kind of rushed. I guess maybe they realized that the Royal Rumble was already as fucking long as it is, since they're going to have 2 Rumble matches, that they had to, I guess, push the finals to this week. Bobby Roode, new U.S. champ. Did it seem rushed? Does it seem even right? I'm like, he won it. Part of me is like, okay, that's cool. Another part of me is like, well, I don't even know what to think about this, because I'm like Cooter said earlier, I want to see a heel Bobby Roode. This face Bobby Roode is just, I don't know, I'm missing something. What's it missing?
I don't know. I think what happened was that the WWE realized that they booked one too many matches for their Royal Rumble card, and they realized they had to knock out something. So they found a way where they can just, let's just do the U.S. title finals on SmackDown rather than having to put it on the actual show, because the pre-show is going to be 2 hours. The show is going to be 4 hours. You're looking at 6 hours of wrestling. There's a lot of stuff. You have 2 Rumble matches that are going to be an hour plus. That's 2 hours of the show taking up. You have a 2 out of 3 falls match. It's probably going to be another half hour. You have 2 title matches, main title matches. There's so much going on in this card that they rushed it to SmackDown. Now, going back to the Bobby Roode, I think this guy needed something, because he just wasn't. And I love Bobby Roode. His entrance is great. And this isn't Bobby Roode's fault. I think it's creative, where he's not connecting with anybody just yet. And
No.
putting the U.S. title on him might help him, sorta, but it's not going to fully help him. I think him as a heel would be tremendous, especially with the U.S. title. Him as a face with the U.S. title, I mean, I hope it helps him, but at the same time, I don't know if it's going to do anything for him, really, unless he turns heel.
No, yeah. I mean, and that's the thing too. Is like, okay, now he won the championship. That's just not going to be part of the card, or will be, is Dolph going to come out of hiding? Are we going to have Dolph versus Rude for it at all, or is that I don't know. I don't even know what to do with Dolph now. He's even being one of the favorites to win the Rumble, surprisingly. Or is just Bobby Roode just going to sit out the Rumble now? I mean, poor Bobby Roode, I guess.
They're going to have Dolph come out with the U.S. title, same thing of 2011 when Cena thought he was going to be the only WWE champion, and here comes Punk with his title belt, and you got two WWE champions. Watched him pull that one out of the bag and got two U.S. champs. I mean, it might have some potential, but it just depends on how they book it.
Yeah, and other people too were talking about even like a redesign of the U.S. Championship, because that's been lasted far.
They need it.
Yeah, it's far too longer than a lot of the other ones have. So I mean, even people were thinking about the winner would probably get like a new one, and well, we haven't really seen one yet. But it's still early in that process. But hey. 205 Live is happening this weekend in our backyard in Poughkeepsie, New York. Now, Mike, this is one of the very few 205 Live shows that are happening, their own little tour. Now, what's funny about this, Mike, I don't think ticket sales are doing as good at first because they had to throw on a Matt Hardy versus... Or I'm sorry, a Woken Matt Hardy versus Bray Wyatt match. So that's on a 205 Live tour. And then I think also Nia Jax is going to be there as like a special ref for one of the matches. So it's like they realized that they couldn't sell out the place with just using 205 Live people, that they kind of had to sprinkle in other names. We're going. What do you think about this? Are you excited to see 205 Live?
I'm excited for any time wrestling comes to our area. It's a nice little escape from reality to just go there and watch live wrestling. The way 205 Live is booked, that's your prime reason why ticket sales aren't doing well. I mean, they're giving away tickets too, just to fill areas. And not only that, I had an email that if you buy 3, you get the 4th one free.
Oh my God.
And I got an email telling me that I had meet and greet tickets. I don't even understand. I didn't know I bought meet and greet tickets. I don't want to show up there and them denying me that I can't come in for the meet and greet. And then if I do go to the meet and greet, the only person I want to meet is Drew Gulak. I'll meet everybody else, but that's the one guy I want to see. I'm excited for this. I'm going to be sitting in the 3rd row on the floor. It's going to be fun. I think we're going to have some entertaining matches. I heard it's only going to be a 2-hour show, which honestly I am okay with. Like I said, I mean, it's rare we get wrestling in our area, so I'm excited to go.
Definitely. Well, we'll be there, guys. Look for us. Angry Cooter's going to be there, believe it or not, too. We'll all be there, so come find us.
Is he going to be hungover?
I don't know. I'm sure
he's going to be hungover or drunk, one of the two.
He's definitely going to be making me buying him drinks when we get there, so I'm sure we'll try to spice him up just in time for everybody. But one last thing, Mike, before we move right along. An interesting thing that came across here, because I want to get into the Royal Rumble next week on the show, but... an interesting tidbit came across my feed, if you will. Daniel Bryan is now the 3rd biggest favorite to win the Royal Rumble. That blew my mind. What do you think about this news? I mean, and it's Royal Rumble season, so at one point you're like, who are going to be the surprises? Who's going to be coming in? Because Raw 25 is coming up, and we already have a lot of names coming back for that. But who's going to be in the Rumble? Do you think we could see Daniel Bryan come out maybe as number 30 or any number?
That would be huge. That would be huge. Now, I read on Twitter about like a month and a half ago that he was cleared. WB doctors finally cleared him. There weren't any reliable sources backing these articles, so I didn't really put too much into it. I just took it with a grain of salt. Now, as we get closer to the Rumble, for some reason, the odds for Daniel Bryan increase and he has a better chance of winning. So something there is telling me that whoever dropped those articles got some inside information, and whoever increased these odds also has some inside information. And Daniel Bryan may actually show up at the Rumble. Now, I mean, this could be totally false information that I've been getting, and number 30 comes out, and it's like it's Roman Reigns again.
Yep.
And that's that. My awkward silence just now is exactly everybody else's reaction.
if that happens, and I'll tell you what, man, I can't. I just can't. Let me just read the top 10 favorite wrestlers for this year's men's Royal Rumble match to win it. So starting from the most favorite to the least, who they think is going to win it. Number 1, they're saying Shinsuke Nakamura is going to win. Number 2, Roman Reigns. Jesus Christ. Number 3, Daniel Bryan and Dolph Ziggler are tied to win it. Believe it or not. That's interesting. And then we got John Cena, Braun Strowman, Finn Balor, then Randy Orton and Baron Corbin are tied right now, and then Seth Rollins. Those are your top 10 favorites to win it. We'll get more into that next week, but I just had to read that because that was very interesting to me. Daniel Bryan. Could you imagine? Number 30 comes out, wins the fucking Royal Rumble. That just puts WrestleMania on the map. You can give me Brock and Roman Reigns any day. If we have fucking Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles match at WrestleMania, main event. That's the main.
I don't want to see Daniel Bryan and Lesnar. No. Trust me, that is a dream match. That is a great match to happen. But Lesnar is so stiff the way he works that I'm afraid for Daniel Bryan. After all the injuries, it would be a short run. It would definitely be a short run. If he goes in there with a guy like AJ can actually carry him through. I don't want to say carry because Daniel's a ring general, but he can sell spots. He's a lot safer than Lesnar, in my opinion. Definitely.
And, he's been posting online, too, about, like, him working out and just getting in shape and ring shape. And, it's interesting because hopefully something did happen. And that they're like, okay, listen, we're going to clear you. Maybe he won't be able to wrestle as crazy as he used to be. Like, just a lot of diving out of the ring and all that shit. But a little bit of a toned down Daniel Bryan. Just because I'll tell you what, when his contract ends, and I don't know when it ends, it's going to end this year, I believe. As soon as that ends, man, he's fucking going to New Japan. He's going to Ring of Honor. He's going anywhere and anywhere where he can wrestle because that's his passion. That's his dream. And if WWE's not going to want to do it, they're going to lose a big name. I'll tell you that. But anyway, guys, coming on up right now, we have Danny Mac, the writer, producer, director. He's an all-in-one kind of guy for Heel Kick, which is coming out on iTunes. Make sure you head on over to heelkickmovie.com for more information. Here is Danny Mac. All right, joining us today is an actor, a director. He's a writer and the producer of Heel Kick, a movie that's coming on out. Danny Mac is here today. Danny, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Steve. Nice to be here.
Hey, welcome. This is what it's about. I mean, the marks out there, the fans out there, the fans of pro wrestling love anything about pro wrestling. And with this movie, we have to get right into it. I saw the trailer a couple months ago, and I loved it. I mean, it was probably one of the best things I've seen coming out in 2018 right now. Before we get too much into it where the fans can get it, but tell us, what is Heel Kick? Get us into the movie. What's this about?
Yeah, Heel Kick is a comedy. It's a mockumentary about two backyard wrestlers that try to go pro, even though they lack complete athleticism or even intelligence or the drive to really get anything done in their lives. So they're delusional, but regardless of that, they start training, and that's where the movie begins.
All right. Now, it's a mockumentary. Can you tell me why a mockumentary? Why'd you go that route, as opposed to anything else?
I love mockumentaries, and there's something also, I'm Canadian, there's something inherently Canadian about Canadian mockumentaries, but there was also a fun element because we trained in real life at a wrestling academy to be able to do the things that we do in the movie, and since we wanted that to be real, I mean, almost documentary-like. Parts of the movie you see will almost be, really what it would be like to enter training. So it really just felt like the right genre to do it in. And, I won't lie and say that it wasn't nice that a micro-budget film can generally get pulled off a lot easier as a mockumentary. But it just felt like a perfect fit for this thing where we're following characters as they're learning something for the first time, especially when so many people in the movie play versions of themselves, like all the wrestlers and the actual wrestling promotion. And that's all real stuff. So we just sort of inserted our characters into that world.
Sure. So now, how'd you guys dive into this world? I mean, are you guys fans of pro wrestling? Did you grow up watching it? Is this something that, you just had to do kind of a thing? Or is it something maybe, I don't know, you just wanted to film about pro wrestling?
I mean, I was a big wrestling fan growing up. I sort of grew out of it into my early teens, I would say, but that just means I didn't watch the product anymore. So I kept watching documentaries, reading autobiographies, and sort of loosely keeping up with how the business was operated, because that still fascinated me, even though I wasn't watching Raw or SmackDown every week. And so, I thought that I had a pretty decent amount of knowledge of the inner workings of the pro wrestling industry. So when I sat down to write my next script, I had always had this appreciation for pro wrestling in my mind, and I knew that I personally would be willing to do, all these stunts and go through the training if it meant we could make a really good film. And from there, it was just cherry picking all the things that I felt were special about wrestling when I was a huge fan, and where the business has gone today. And then, of course, starting actual training and filling in the blanks from there. So it happened pretty organically.
Sure, and I kind of agree with you too. Where you kind of fall out of it in your teens a little bit, and then it depends on what happens to pull you back in. But we all reach a certain point to where we find out how wrestling works in a way. But
yeah,
you said you had to train for it. Did you kind of know what was going on during the training, or did you understand that you really had to get physical for what you're about to do?
I mean, I knew that training wasn't going to be easy. I just didn't know how it wouldn't be easy, so to speak. So we entered a training program with the ECCW, and they're based in the Pacific Northwest here in Vancouver, BC. And we were in that for about 6 months. So there was a pretty steep learning curve because, just for a number of reasons. You had to put on some muscle, you had to get your cardio up, and on top of that, you had to learn the psychology of matches. And it was, like I said, I'd watched a lot of documentaries, especially ones about people going through that, the whole training process. But it was eye-opening to be doing it for myself for the first time. So I was kind of prepared for it, but you can never really prepare for exactly what it's going to be like to train
Sure.
day in and day out, right?
Definitely. Now, you said you were doing it about 6 months or so. Did you guys get hurt or anything, or any injuries happen during making of this, or, just training for it?
Well, nothing too bad. We had full faith in our trainers, and so no one was ever really injured because, everything hurt, of course. I got knocked unconscious one day because I didn't duck low enough under somebody's clothesline. And I even remember the class where they told us, it's like, you got to swing as hard as you possibly can with that clothesline. If the dude doesn't get under you, that's his problem. And sure enough, a week later, someone threw the hardest line ever. I didn't quite make it under his arm, and his wrist just cracked the top of my skull. Oh. And the next thing I know, I'm looking up and everyone's looking down at me like a ridiculous 80s comedy where someone gets knocked out. And I'm like, I got knocked out, didn't I? And they're like, yes, you did. And I look over to the right, and the guy who threw the clothesline he's like, are you okay? But he's nursing his wrist. He had to go to the hospital and get it checked out. So, that happened. And my co-star, Chris Wilcox, who plays Maurice, he blew his knee out 2 weeks before we had to start shooting. And we were terrified he wouldn't recover in time because the movie is pretty physical.
Sure.
But yeah, no one died anyway. So thank God.
There you go. Now, like I said in the intro, you're a man that wears many hats in this, from the directing to writing and producing all that stuff. How challenging is that? Because you're on screen, you're the writer. It's not that easy though, right? You're doing all these things at once. I don't know. Did you find like a little, kind of like a bubble to put yourself into to focus on one thing at a time, or?
Sort of. It both is and isn't as bad as it sounds, right? Like, for example, starring in a film that you wrote, I think that those sort of go hand in hand to me, because I was writing these roles. They were catered to, most of the people I was writing the parts for. There would be others that we'd have to audition, but myself and 3 of the other roles were written for people that I knew. And then once that's behind you and you're on set, you can just perform it as best you can. And then directing is just an extension of that. It's, me saying, I've got not only a vision for how I want my character to be portrayed, but how I want the scene to go and how I want the film to look. And I had a co-director to back me up and to throw some curveballs at me when he thought that a scene was looking stale, which was important because I'm in almost every scene. But that part, it actually, it came together pretty nicely, and I wouldn't have had it any other way. The most difficult part is producing. That's where one hat becomes a hat too many, because you're trying to line up locations, and it's a micro budget film, so everybody's doing their part plus a little extra. So yeah, like I said, you're making phone calls, you're doing emails, you're trying to deal with the investors and the banks and the money coming through or not coming through, and where you're going to get your equipment from. So you can only delegate so much with a small crew, and being a producer is a ton of work. It's one of those things people always say, what the hell does a producer do anyway? And the answer is any amount of work they find necessary. Yep. And so it's quite a bit in this case.
Sure. Hats off to you for that. But how about, back to Heel Kick. Tell me about some of the characters maybe in the movie. Who are we going to see in this movie? Basically what,
yeah.
Who are we gonna hear from or see in the movie?
We're gonna be spending time with the subjects of the documentary. Their names are Reggie, played by myself, and Maurice, his best friend. And these guys are just kind of almost 30, delusional. They're not even backyard wrestlers, really. They're more just wrestling fans. And they're these guys that have been saying for like a decade that this is going to be what they're going to do with the rest of their life. Of course, they just never take any steps in the right direction to do so. And then Matthew Graham, who plays my brother Jared, is a professional. He's sick of his brother's, pie in the sky dream. He says, look, I'll pay for your wrestling school if you try it. And then you can show us all if you really have what it takes. And if you don't, then enough of this. Like, get a real job, move out of mom's house. So my mom is also in the movie. Not my actual mom, but an actress who plays her. And, just the realities of raising a man-child. And a lot of the pretty much everyone you see who's training us is an actual professional wrestler with at least a decade of experience, based in Vancouver from the ECCW here, which, ECCW, they just recently churned out the Singh brothers, who are in WWE now, as you all know. Sure. Not too far behind Jinder Mahal at any given moment. And, Daniel Bryan came through there, and a lot of good names. So it's a great place to have received training, but it was cool to have them in the movie as themselves as well.
That's awesome. I'm excited. Coming out January 19th on iTunes. But where can people keep up with you, follow you on social media, hear more about this movie if they haven't already heard about it?
You can follow the movie everywhere, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Heel Kick Movie. And like you said, it's on iTunes January 19th. It's up for pre-order right now on iTunes. If you want to get on it early, there's a discounted price. And if you don't mess with Apple products, it's also going to be on Google Play, Amazon, Vudu, Xbox, and PlayStation on Friday the 19th as well. So there's a variety of places to grab it. But if you got your pick of the litter, you should go for the iTunes pre-order. That's what I say anyway.
All right. Danny Mac, thank you so much for joining us. We can't wait to see the movie. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. I hope you enjoy it.
Not since Ken Shamrock have we seen one like her that's going to come in here and make a huge difference from the MMA world.
We got this guy called Brock Lesnar. Well, I don't know.
I'm talking about an original. I'm talking about an original, okay?
All right, so this week, the AWP list, we're going to talk about a man who I respect what he's done for the business. I respect him as a performer. I thought he was very entertaining. We're talking about Booker T on commentary. This is horrendous. It's absolutely horrendous. I want to know who's responsible for this. I understand that for some reason they have to have the 3-man booths. And I'm not going to throw this out there, but they always have to have one black guy on each booth. That's all I'm going with right there. But other than that, he's just so bad. Like, it's horrendous. Like, he doesn't have his facts straight. I think he's drunk half the time. That sometimes it's entertaining and sometimes it's just so bad. Like, he just flips his opinions all the time. Corey Graves must be the most frustrated guy on that commentary table, because he's always arguing with Booker T, and sometimes I think it's legit arguments, because I don't think this guy comes with the right facts. I mean, this past week, he's talking about how Ken Shamrock was the last guy to come from the MMA world that did something, and then Corey Graves was real quick to jump on him. He's like, well, there's this guy named Brock Lesnar who came in. And then like there was like a couple weeks ago, he just said this like stuff that just made absolutely no sense, and like oh my god, it's just so painful to listen to him on commentary.
I think, they give him a live mic and they trust him to say the right thing, and I guess maybe no one's really telling him some things to say, and maybe he's writing it down on paper as things are happening. He's like, this is great, I'm going to say this. And then it happens to be like that Ken Shamrock comment, and I'm like, really?
You got your phone next to you, like Google. Find your facts.
They usually have computers in front of them too, which is funny. So
yeah.
But
he's always like, and there's some times too where like he doesn't even say a word, he just goes like he does like all the time. Like what are you like? Are you eating something that's delicious, like that you want to share? Like tell me what you're eating, because it just sounds like it's so damn delicious.
Well, tell me this though, Mike, too, because remember going back months ago now, I remember them saying, David Otunga is going to be gone filming a movie for 2 weeks, but Booker T is going to fill in for him. And David Otunga never came back, and Booker T
long ass movie.
And Booker T just filled in forever. It was supposed to be like a 2-week job, and then it turned into 6 months later.
David Otunga filming Infinity Wars or something. Like he's gone for that long.
Booker T, man, I get it. At the same time, it's just relax. Just call the match. Don't try to come up with some witty fact or something that you're thinking about.
The worst thing, he goes, and I don't mean to cut you off, but this just popped in my head. The one comment he says to Corey Graves, I forgot when this was, but he tells Corey, he's like, you don't know what you're talking about. You've never been in the squared circle. You don't know what it's like to wear gold. And he's like, I wrestled before this. I had to stop because I had a concussion, and I was an NXT Tag Champion, Booker. And then Booker just like changes the subject.
Oh my gosh, maybe they're just ripping it. Like maybe they just know it backstage. Maybe Vince is like, listen, I'm going to tell Booker that Ken Shamrock it was the only guy that ever do it. And let's just see how they. I get someone's got to be ripping
Vince's entertainment.
This is it. Well,
this is the thing that makes Vince laugh every Monday night, just listening to Booker on commentary.
Maybe if you're listening out there, find us some clips of Booker T on commentary. Maybe we'll put some, maybe make a video out of it together one day. But Booker, Mike, do you want to tell him?
Booker T, you just made the list.
All right, guys. Raw 25 is happening. The 25th anniversary of Monday Night Raw. Man, I feel old because I remember the first Monday Night Raw. WWE came out with its top 25 moments in Raw history, picked by them, of course. I'm not going to read every single list. I mean, if you go to their site, you could find it. But, Mike, we'll just talk about some of the memories of Monday Night Raw and its 25-year history. A lot of things have happened on there, but, I'm going to go back to just one of my favorites, and that's the CM Punk delivering his pipe bomb promo. When this happened, I think I was multitasking. Like, I would watch Raw, I'd be on my computer, and I think I was doing something on my computer, and then just listening to what he was saying, I stopped what I was doing, and then I look at the TV, I'm like, this is happening right now. Just, you guys heard it. We've all heard it, Just the shit he was saying, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe they're letting him say this. And it was like, wow, this is real. I love when we have real moments like that, like open mics, no scripts, not reading off your hand. This was like, he was pissed. I can't believe they gave him a live mic, and then they ended up cutting it. But even the funny part too is John Cena was just in a match, and he's sitting in the ring, and it was a long, he had to he's like, holy shit. You can see his face like, wow, when are they going to stop him from doing this? But man, CM Punk, his pipe bomb, it's one of the things, when you say Raw 25, that's one of the things that stands out to me. One of the greatest promos probably ever. I wish we could have more live promos like that, but, live TV.
I loved it. It was so good. I mean, that was the type of promo that actually made mainstream media. I mean, with ESPN was covering it. I remember Punk talking about it in an interview, saying he was getting contacted from all sorts of outside sources to talk about it. It was probably one of the biggest moments in Raw, in my opinion. One of my favorite moments in Raw was Mike Tyson being on there. When he came out, and then all of a sudden Austin came out. I mean, it felt real. It felt like a legit fight. And then when Austin told him he was the baddest SOB in the world or on the planet, and then gave Tyson the finger, and that brawl just erupted, and you had JR on commentary, which added so much more to it when he's just yelling Tyson and Austin, Tyson and Austin. It was just an awesome moment for me.
Definitely a remarkable moment, because that was, a big mainstream media sports star like Mike Tyson on Raw, and what's going to happen? Are they going to do something silly? And Steve Austin was huge at that time, and just confronting Mike Tyson, that's like a celebrity death match, or they had on MTV, or just like a dream confrontation. So that was definitely memorable.
There was another moment that happened on Raw, which pretty much outed Vince McMahon about being the owner, because when I first started watching wrestling, I never knew Vince was the owner. I never knew. I thought he was just a commentary guy. I thought like Jack Tunney was the guy in charge, yep. One of those. And then I remember that night in the Garden when he received the first stunner from Austin. He sold it horribly, by the way. But I remember when he looked at Austin and he said, "Do you know I'm the owner of this company?" And I sat back and I'm just like, really? I would never have known. And never knew. He outed himself as the owner. I don't know if that was the first time he put it out there on national TV, or it's been like that before, but I was I was believing the kayfabe. I was into this.
Yeah, they definitely didn't announce it too much, and kids out there are probably like, I can't believe you didn't know that. But you know what, kids, back then they didn't have Twitter and Facebook, and you couldn't just go online and read all the dirt sheets. You had to watch that shit on TV. Nobody just knew what was happening. So that's what was good about it back then. But still, yeah, I mean, it was rarely known. And then, hey, I was on the Jack Tunney board with you, man. I was a Jack Tunney man, right? And yeah, it was interesting to find out that it was Vince really owns it. As a kid, it's mind blowing. So it's definitely one of the big things that happened. Also on their list, Mike, I have one gripe with this list. I'm not going to read off the whole list, but one gripe was number 6, where Roman Reigns proclaiming Raw is his yard after feeding The Undertaker. Out of all the memorable moments from the beer bath, Jericho's debut, this and that, whatever, Roman Reigns proclaiming it's his yard is one of the top 20. Come on. One of the top 25 things in 25 years. This was one of the things. No, I can't, Mike. I can't.
I don't think it's in the top 25. The only thing that made that a moment was the crowd. The crowd was just so together on just hating this guy. And the stuff they were chanting, even before when Roman came out, when they started Raw and they had that Undertaker chant for 5 minutes before Roman's music hit, and then when they were chanting "fuck you, Roman." I felt like I was in an ECW show for a minute, and they just wouldn't let him speak. And then when he got that one word out, it sounded so loud on TV of them just booing. So I think the crowd is the number 6. I don't think Roman is the number 6 moment. But in my opinion, that segment isn't in the top 25. It is a moment, don't get me wrong. And the reason why it's a moment, in my opinion, is because of the crowd.
There you go. One of the other things, too, which is funny, this moment that they put on their list, which was kind of interesting, Mick Foley defeating The Rock to win the WWF title. Now, when this happened, the Monday Night Raw, the Monday Night Wars was in full effect. And if you were watching WCW, I think it was Tony Schiavone who's the one who said it, where he's like, well, just to let you know, if you're going to watch the other guys, or something to that effect, he's like, Mick Foley becomes their champion tonight. Basically saying,
asses in seats.
Yeah, basically saying, yeah, you don't have to tune in. I just told you what happened. But I think that kind of backfired on them, and I think that's when everybody actually tuned into Raw. They wanted to tune into Raw to see that happen, and I think I watched it live. I didn't see the WCW saying that at the time. I was watching Raw when it happened, but they have the video for it. Go to the network, $9.99. But Mick Foley defeating The Rock to win that championship the first time, man, that was definitely it made you feel good. It got you goosebumps all up, and I was like. It was one of those feel-good moments for them for Raw, because it was one of those things you didn't think you'd see happening, and it wasn't Mick Foley. It was Mankind defeating The Rock. So I mean, it was definitely a fun moment that stood out there.
It was a good moment. It was the year when The Rock wore the full tracksuit, because he had the surgery on his boobs, his pecs. But besides that, it was a great moment. I mean, when Tony Schiavone just outed what happened, it definitely the ratings just shifted, and from that day forward, Nitro never beat Raw in the ratings ever again because of that. And I remember the moment. I remember when he won and DX hoisted Foley on their shoulders and ran him around the ring, and he got on the mic and he shouted out Noel Foley. I'm shouting out Noel Foley right now. How you doing, Noel? My name's Minority Mike. I'll take you out to dinner sometime. Screw that clown dude you're with. Anyway, back to the subject. So I thought it was a great moment. It really was. I was so invested into it. Another moment that I actually really enjoyed, I was just talking about it with someone, was Chris Jericho debuting on Raw. I thought that was huge. Now, that was back in the time where I didn't have internet. I didn't have internet growing up as a kid, so I didn't have anything to spoil things for me. So when Jericho popped up on my TV confronting The Rock, I was shocked. I was just like, holy shit, he's a WCW guy. What is he doing here? Nothing spoiled it for me. There was no dirt sheets. There was no internet. There was no Facebook. It was just me and my TV every Monday night. And when he came out, that was a moment for me because it just came out of left field.
No, yeah. And, leading up to this, it was interesting because there were like wrestling newsletters for emails and stuff like that. It wasn't like it is today. And I think because all they had was the countdown. You would see this countdown for weeks on Raw, like what's going to happen. It was just counting down, right? And so a lot of people, some people, I think in these internet things, I think they said it could be Chris Jericho, but then they had all these other names, and I can't really remember. I'm just trying to go off of memory here, and nobody really knew who it was. I think some people were saying it could be Jericho, but then there was like a few other names, and it wasn't 100%. But like I said, it wasn't like the dirt sheets you see today, and it was like really random like newsletter stuff. So, but his debut was definitely like the jumping of the ship for like WCW, I guess, because everybody was going to WCW, and then the tides turned to where as soon as Chris Jericho debuted on Raw, Chris Jericho was a bigger star the day he debuted on Raw than he ever was on WCW, and that just like cemented his legacy of what he was and what he was going to be. So I mean, it's really, really memorable. Especially when The Rock came out to confront him, because now it's like we're getting a WCW guy versus a WWE guy, and then the history books were made right there. The history was told. So that was definitely a moment. Definitely worthy of a top 25. It's definitely up there. One of the, you're mentioning DX hoisting Mick Foley up. A DX memory for Raw would have to be DX, and this is on their list, obviously, but is invading WCW, which was awesome. On the tank, heading down to the, over there, closing the garage on them. That was awesome. That was totally like Vince McMahon just wants to get the shit on TV, and WCW wouldn't do it back. Like they wouldn't go over to Raw and do it back. So it was cool just to see DX kind of, they're live right now down in Atlanta, right before Monday Night Nitro, and trying to get people to, follow them and stuff. It was pretty cool. I was definitely.
I thought that was awesome too. And then I remember Kevin Nash was telling a story about it. How like when that door shut, Kevin Nash walked up to the door, and he was literally on the other side of that door while the tank was literally right on the one side with Hunter and X-Pac and the Outlaws. It was a cool moment. It was funny as hell. Fast forward to today, and the Bullet Club does it, and WWE is all butthurt about it. I mean, they shouldn't be too upset about it simply because of the fact that they did this years ago. So they should just commend these guys. But other than that, I thought that was a great Raw moment as well.
No, yeah, so many things have happened. I mean, like I said, we're not going to read the whole list, but a lot of these memories just coming up from us growing up watching it. A lot of things that are on this 25 list have happened this year in a way, like the Kevin Owens turning on Chris Jericho at the Festival of Friendship, which was hilarious and awesome. An old memory just to reminisce real quick was Shane McMahon buying WCW, which was awesome. Nobody expected that. And that was too like in the early ages of the dirt sheets in a way, to where we kind of heard that he was doing something, or there's going to be big news tonight, and then him revealing that he was buying WCW, the competition, and then after that it was like, crap, he just bought WCW. Now what do they do? Because now they just bought their competitor, and ever since then, Mike, nobody has ever really been able to put one over Vince.
There's one moment of Raw that's not on this list, and I thought it was probably up there with one of my favorites. Was when Daniel Bryan joined the Wyatt family, and they had that cage match against the Usos. And then I guess I believe Daniel took the fall in that, and Bray was about to sacrifice him with the sister Abigail, and then Bryan turned around, and all of a sudden the reveal was that Daniel Bryan was never on board with Bray, and he had Bray in that cage with him. And what made it so great was the audience, because Daniel Bryan had that audience in the palm of his hands. And if you go on YouTube and you find this, you'll see it. And the commentary, the commentators did the perfect thing, and they didn't say a single word. They didn't. Michael Cole was quiet. Everybody was quiet. And then when Daniel Bryan put his hands up, the crowd yelled yes. And they did it in the motion that he did it. And every time he did something, the crowd just went nuts. And it was huge. And then when he climbed on top of that cage and started pumping his hands in the air, the whole crowd was doing it. It was probably one of the greatest visuals I've ever seen on Raw. It was amazing. And it didn't make the list, unfortunately.
A lot of other things have happened. On their number one spot, I just want to read briefly, was the Stone Cold giving a beer bath to the corporation. That happened right up the road from us in Albany, New York. I did not go to that. I knew some friends that did go to that, but definitely memorable of just the chaos and just watching all the gallons of beer pour into the ring. And I'm like, I hope nobody's got to follow this match or follow this, because it's just like, man, it was hilarious. It was totally different. And then what didn't make this was also Kurt Angle doing his little milk thing where he sprayed people with milk. It didn't have quite the same impact as the beer bath, but I thought it was hilarious of just, copying Stone Cold Steve Austin and Kurt Angle doing his own milk thing. But I don't know. Those little moments were definitely fun to watch, and that was their number one spot, the beer bath.
Yeah. I mean, I remember that. I wonder how many underage people in the front row got a drink on the house.
You gotta find. There's a funny video. Steve Austin's talking about it, and he's like, he almost knocked himself out because he has like this fire hose spraying all the beer into the ring, and he tries spraying it into his face to get a sip. And if you watch the video, I forget exactly what he says, but it was something to the effect like he almost knocked himself out or whatever, because it's a force, man. It's a fucking fire hose blowing all that out, and he put it up to his face to get a swig of it, and it just almost like knocked him out. But all these memories, guys, I won't let. What were your memories? Once again, if you head on over to anotherwrestlingpodcast.com, tweet us at @WrestlingPod, Facebook anotherwrestlingpodcast.com, leave some comments, let us know what your favorite moment of 25 years of Raw that's happening. But Mike, anything else that stand out to you before we get out of here?
There are so many. I mean, we talked about some of the most memorable moments. I mean, you had the other ones that stood out to me. I mean, Lita and Trish main eventing, the first time these women ever main evented a Raw. And that was right before the Diva era, which is kind of painful to even think about. That was a moment, Seth turning on Ambrose and Roman Reigns. I mean, that was a moment too, because I didn't even see that coming. I didn't think they were going to break them up, and I think they did it perfectly. So there's so many moments that happened in 25 years, and hopefully with the right booking, I hope there's going to be more moments in the 25 years to come.
That's right. Even when Edge announced his retirement, to where going back full circle, Daniel Bryan announcing his retirement was definitely a moment, but it didn't make the list. And that only goes to speculate, could he be number 30 this next week, Mike, at the Royal Rumble? I don't know. It's interesting. But once again, like I said, leave us your comments. Let us know what you thought about 25 years of Raw. That's just some of our take on their list of the 25 years of the show that we love the most. And the only show that's on Monday, 3 hours. Then followed by SmackDown, 3 hours. And then Mixed Match, an hour. And then 205 Live, another hour. And yeah, so on and so forth. Fucking too much wrestling in a week. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, too bad we don't watch Impact. Because that'd be more wrestling on Thursday that I'd be so frustrated. Why am I watching this shit? Why I'm a grown man watching wrestling. Why am I watching this?
Well, guys, stay tuned next week. We have Paul Roma on. He's going to be joining us. And then following that, we're going to have Bill DeMott on. So, we're back, I guess, Minority Mike. Without Angry Cooter. We're going to find what Angry Cooter's doing. But we're back. It's a new year.
He's drinking a 007 for me like I asked him to, hopefully. Or he's probably pounding back some shots. He's having more fun than me right now. But it's all right. I'm going to have to join him soon.
Yo, Credo, where the fuck are you? You're supposed to pick me up 45 minutes ago. First you leave me hanging on the podcast, now you're leaving me hanging with a ride? You know I gotta work in the morning. I got shit to do. You again fuck it up. Don't make me call my mother, bro. She wouldn't want to pick me up when I'm all fucked up. I'll never hear the end of this shit.